Don't do it.
Stay back! Don't come any closer!
Just give me your hand. I'll pull you back over.
No!
It's April 1912. The largest moving object ever built by human hands is crossing the North Atlantic. Inside, a string quartet is playing, champagne is flowing, and more than 1,500 people have no idea they are hours away from the bottom of the ocean. You already know what happens, but in 1997, James Cameron made you live it again for 3 hours and 14 minutes. And somewhere between the string quartet and the iceberg, he made you cry about two people who never existed. That is the power of Titanic. And the story behind the camera is almost as wild as the one in front of it. Today we are counting down 10 weird facts about the making of Titanic. And stay with us until number 1, because the reason this movie exists at all is something almost nobody knows. You're going to want to hear it. Let's go. Number 10. The movie cost more than the actual ship. In 1912, the RMS Titanic cost approximately $7.5 million to build. Adjusted to 1997 dollars, that comes to roughly $150 million. The movie Titanic cost $200 million to make. James Cameron's film about the ship was more expensive than the ship itself. Let that land for a second. The production budget exceeded the construction cost of one of the most ambitious engineering projects in human history. And Paramount was watching every single dollar. The studio had been told the budget would be $120 million. When it ballooned past 200, the phones started ringing. Executives were calling it Cameron's folly. Trade papers were sharpening their knives. Every week brought a new headline about the runaway disaster in the making. Nobody believed this movie was going to work. Nobody except the guy who spent all of it. Number 9. James Cameron had to talk Leonardo DiCaprio into playing Jack. Leo didn't want it. By 1997, DiCaprio had already earned an Oscar nomination for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He was not looking to play a charming guy on a boat. He thought Jack Dawson wasn't layered enough, wasn't tortured enough, wasn't the kind of role that stretched him as an actor. He told Cameron he wasn't interested. Cameron's response was simple. Come in. Just meet with me. DiCaprio came in. Cameron showed him the vision, the ship, the scale, the love story set against a real historical catastrophe. And then Cameron reportedly told him directly, every actor in Hollywood wants this role. You can either be Jack Dawson, or you can watch someone else be Jack Dawson. Leo signed on. The rest is box office history. Number 8. Kate Winslet refused a wetsuit. And paid for it. Almost every actor in those water scenes wore a wetsuit underneath their costume. The water was cold. The shoots were long. The wetsuits were a basic, sensible precaution. Kate Winslet looked at the wetsuit and said no. She was 21 years old and absolutely committed to the reality of what her character was experiencing. She wanted the cold to be real. She wanted the gasping to be real. In several scenes, that is not acting. That is a person genuinely submerged in freezing water. What followed was predictable and painful. Winslet developed pneumonia. She later said publicly that she would need to be paid a very significant amount of money to ever work with James Cameron again. She said it with a smile, but she meant it. Number 7. That famous sketch? Leonardo DiCaprio did not draw it. The scene where Jack draws Rose, pencil moving across paper, her lying there wearing the necklace and nothing else, is one of the most iconic moments in the film. It established Jack as an artist, as someone who sees her, really sees her. There is only one problem. Leonardo DiCaprio cannot draw at that level. The hands in that scene belong to James Cameron. Before directing films, Cameron worked as an art director and production designer. Drawing was in his blood. He sketched the entire contents of Jack's sketchbook himself. And then, it got more complicated. Cameron is left-handed. DiCaprio is right-handed. So in post-production, Cameron's team literally mirror-flipped the sketching footage so the hand on screen matched the character. The most romantic artistic gesture in the movie was performed by the director, reversed in post, and attributed to an actor who wasn't holding the pencil. Number 6. The most famous song in the movie was written in secret because Cameron said no. James Cameron did not want My Heart Will Go On. He did not want any song. He had spent $200 million building the most emotionally precise recreation of a historical disaster ever committed to film. The last thing he wanted was a pop ballad playing over the credits. He said so clearly and repeatedly. Composer James Horner heard him and then went ahead anyway. Behind Cameron's back, Horner wrote the song, brought in lyricist GenX, tracked down Celine Dion, who also didn't want to do it, and recorded a demo. Then he played it for Cameron. Cameron loved it. Dion recorded her vocal in a single take. She never re-sang it. That one-take demo became the final recording. My Heart Will Go On won the Oscar for Best Original Song. And Cameron, the man who said no song, stood on stage and accepted the award. Number 5. Someone drugged the entire crew with PCP and nobody was ever charged. On August 9, 1996, on the last night of filming in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the craft services team served chowder. People went back for seconds. Within 30 minutes, the set descended into chaos. 80 crew members were rushed to the hospital. Cameron described arriving at the emergency room, people moaning, crying, wailing on gurneys. His cinematographer was leading a conga line down the hallway. One eye of Cameron's was completely red. The other looked like he'd been on something since birth. He had eaten the chowder. He ran to his room and forced himself to be sick before the full effects hit. The chowder had been spiked with PCP, angel dust, a full pound of it. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet were not on set that night. Bill Paxton was. Bill Paxton ate the chowder, sat in a hospital hallway, and by all accounts enjoyed the buzz considerably more than most. The case was investigated, officially closed in 1999, and nobody was ever charged. The culprit has never been identified. The greatest mystery of Titanic has nothing to do with icebergs. Number 4. James Cameron gave back his entire salary. When the budget exploded past what he had promised the studio, Cameron made a decision that almost no director in Hollywood history has made voluntarily. He gave back his $8 million fee, all of it, no salary, and he removed himself from the back end, meaning no percentage of the profits after release. He did it because he felt it was the right thing to do. He had told them one number and spent a different number. He wasn't going to ask them to absorb that and still collect his check. The film went on to gross $1.8 billion worldwide. Cameron walked away from what would have been one of the largest director paydays in history. He has described it as the right call. He is probably correct. He is almost certainly still not over it. Number 3. There is a real grave marked J. Dawson, and Cameron had no idea. Jack Dawson is a fictional character. James Cameron made him up, except that in the Fairview Lawn Cemetery in Halifax, Nova Scotia, there is a headstone that reads simply, J. Dawson. He was Joseph Dawson, 23 years old, from Dublin. He worked in the stokehold of the Titanic, shoveling coal to keep the engines running. He died when the ship sank. He was buried in Halifax on May 8, 1912. After the film came out, that grave became a destination. Teenagers left flowers. They left photographs of DiCaprio. They left ticket stubs, grass clippings, and handwritten letters. Cameron said he had no idea Dawson existed when he named his character. A coal trimmer from Dublin sharing a name with a fictional hero, and a cemetery in Canada quietly absorbing all that grief, all those years later, from people mourning someone who was never real. Number 2. The oldest Oscar nominee in history had been retired for 30 years. Gloria Stuart was 86 years old when she was cast as Old Rose. She had been a Hollywood actress in the 1930s, a genuine leading lady who worked with James Whale, starred opposite Shirley Temple, and appeared in over 40 films. Then she stepped away. Decades passed. She made art. She printed books by hand. She largely left the industry behind. Cameron wanted someone real, someone whose eyes carried actual history. Stuart read the script and said she had waited her entire career for a role like this. She was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress at 87. It made her the oldest person ever nominated for a competitive Oscar. She did not win. She lived to be exactly 100 years old, the same age as her character in the film. When she died in 2010, Cameron attended the memorial.
Number 1. The love story was never the point. Here is what James Cameron has admitted quietly in interviews over the years. He did not come up with Titanic because he wanted to tell a love story. He came up with Titanic because he was obsessed with the wreck. He wanted to dive it. He wanted to film it. He had been dreaming about it for years. The problem was that no studio was going to fund a deep-sea diving expedition for a director who wanted to swim around a shipwreck at the bottom of the Atlantic. So he pitched them a love story. He gave them Jack and Rose in the heart of the ocean and everything they needed to say yes. And they did. By the time principal photography began, Cameron had already dived the wreck of the real Titanic 12 times. 12 dives before a single actor stepped on set. He later said simply, "I made Titanic so I could dive the Titanic." The most expensive romance in Hollywood history, built his cover for one man's obsession with a shipwreck, and somewhere in that obsession, he made something that made the entire world cry. That is Titanic. Tell us in the comments, which fact hit you the hardest? And if you want more deep dives into the films and shows that built us,